Finally, it rises.
Hey, it's ODB, and I want to go over an eBay listing, which I don't do too often these days. But if you go on eBay right now and type in Lincoln Continental Convertible, you're going to see a few listings out there. And oh, by the way, I did want to mention the 66 that I covered recently as far as a sales update. That was a no sale on Bring a Trailer. It is also on eBay. So like I said in that video, more than likely this car will end up with a new owner. It's just going to be finding the right buyer, if you will. So I want to turn our attention to this 63 Lincoln Continental Convertible. It's listed, get ready for this, $125,000 or best offer. I do think that folks will use eBay as kind of a calling card to put the product out there to kind of say, hey, this is what I've got. Maybe a phone call to the seller. They start talking and so on and so forth. But I want to really talk about, is this car worth it? And I'm never here to try to beat down what a seller is asking for their car. Certainly anybody can ask whatever they want for their car. I'm just here to kind of give you a few things to keep in mind, or things that you should be asking. Or if you see this car and you're like, wow, this is it, this is my dream car, here are some things you need to keep in mind. Now, I will say many sellers on eBay for Lincoln cars, they don't put a very good description. This one has a decent description. Basically, it kind of goes on to say a 63 Lincoln Continental convertible, which is a piece of automotive history. The mileage on the car is low. It's showing 13,600. Now, I would venture to say that it's got to have rolled over, right? So anybody that's a younger listener, you may not realize, but back in the day, you only had 5 digits on the odometer. So when you got to 99,999 and it rolled to 100,000, people would sell cars and go, hey, it has 100 miles on it. Well, if you looked at the condition of the car, you would know. But this is what the seller is stating, 13,600. The owner has had the car for over 5 years. It runs great. They talk about in here, it's an original black car. It does not have any Bondo and very little rust at the normal areas like the bottom of the quarter panel. So those are things that we would always want to investigate in person. When someone says there's zero body damage, I went through the entire body with a Bondo tester and magnet. I'm not a body person. I've had people tell me, that old trick, is good. I've had people tell me, you still can't really tell. It's just hard. It is hard to tell sometimes what is underneath the paint. If the paint was original, you would assume then that there wouldn't be anything under it. They talk about it kind of shines up nice, but it may need to be repainted. The convertible top works flawlessly, as do the rear auto drop up and down. So that's good. Again, a good description. Starts and run perfectly. Doesn't have any leaks. Most Lincolns will leak something, but certainly they're saying no leaks, so that's a good thing. They do, of course, this gentleman also lists his phone number here. So let's dive right in. If we look at Hagerty, we know the price for a 63 convertible is going to be anywhere from about $25,000 without AC, all the way to 100, just north of 100,000. And of course, that is going to be like a concourse type car, like a very, very high end, right? If we take a look at the car, we've got the distinctive 63 front end. 63 is a very sought after year. You've got those smaller squares, as I refer to them as, which was a change from 62 with the kind of bigger triangles, I always say triangles, rectangles. If I knew my shapes, I'd maybe be doing a better job here today. We have a side view here. We can see it has the original wheel covers, aka hubcaps. We can see the vent windows open, and we do have the door guards here, which was a kind of a dealer add-on, was a Ford product. Some people love these. I have them on my 65. Some people don't like them. The dash is distinctive in 63. This kind of, I believe it's referred to often as kind of this like big main one piece. I'm going to be doing more Lincoln Addict podcasts in the future, and I'll be talking about I got to finish kind of the exterior discussions for each year, and then eventually I'd like to go to the interior and talk about those a little bit more in the future. But again, we can see that distinctive front end. They blotched out the California black plates. Sometimes folks are wanting a California car because I forget if it's just in California, but you can transfer the black plates and things like that. We have that in Florida where you could take an old like 1964 plate and have it validated so you could run it on your 1964 car. So I think that's a similar thing that California offers. The rear end of this car is very distinctive. It is different from 62. It is different from 64, right? So each of these years is a little bit different. And you've got these different deals here, and the Lincoln logo is up on the deck lid. So this nice, very nice trim work in here, and the deck lid does have a little bit of a raised adjustment to it because in 63 they added a little bit more space, and that was a key thing based upon buyer feedback. We can see a rear three-quarter shot here. So far, we're seeing, of course, the top is up. We can see the back window on the top. This is how they will get. They will get very hazy, if you will, and it does make it tough to drive with the top up. Fortunately, you can zip this down. If the top was very old, like it is in my 64, it could be very tough to zip up and zip down to kind of lay it flat. I haven't really talked a lot about that, but certainly if you had this car, you're not going to be driving around with the top up, of course, unless it's raining. We can see in here a little bit. It's hard to tell if there's something going on right here because I believe this is all one piece. It almost looks like it is cracked there. I will be talking about this furthermore when I do my other podcast episodes where I talk about the exterior aesthetics of each of these years. But with the convertible, the deck lid comes backwards, right? So you've got these little areas here where the deck lid does open. And that's on the right and left side. You can see right here. The gas filler is in the middle. That does change in 64 to the driver's side, the driver's side rear. So that is a change that we'll see in the next model year. The interiors are very similar in terms of the seats and things like that. It's hard to tell. My guess is that these seats have been redone at some point. It is hard to tell if it's leather or it almost, I want to say vinyl. You guys are usually a better, barometer than I am with that, because if I say, hey, this is vinyl, and, someone goes, no, it's not. So let me know what you think. But it doesn't look perfect, but it looks better than what we've seen in some other cars. One thing I always like to look at for 1, 2, and 3, so 61 through 63, you've got this kind of similar interior option. I love this, like the wood paneling, and you do have the handles installed correctly. They're supposed to be forward. You will sometimes see when people put these back on, they'll clock it so that this is in the rear. And if that was the case, hypothetically, someone could lean their elbow on it, and that would open the door, and you wouldn't want that, of course. Not saying the door would just fling wide open, but certainly you wouldn't want to test it while you're driving down the road, if that makes any sense. In 61, 2, and 3, you also had that kind of the mirror that came down from up here, so it was not on the windshield. I always thought that was pretty classy, and I always kind of liked that myself. I think seeing the top of the door panel piece here, the door pod, it does, again, I think reinforce that the interior was redone at some point. That's not necessarily a bad thing. If the interior was thrashed, you'd rather it be done. We can see here it does have the what appears to be the original. So this is what Lincoln would give to the owners when they would purchase it. So the individual who buys it, they would put a kind of a name plaque, if you will. I've talked a little bit about, but these wood insert pieces, you've got a couple of pieces here behind the pods. You typically will have, I think if you had you should have the piece here and on the left side, I believe. If you have the wood option, then of course you have this piece, and I think there is normally one here. I always kind of forget because these are very similar in year, but I don't own a 61, 2, or 3, but certainly have done a good amount of research on them. We can see here the main thing that you want to know is this is not an air-conditioned car. So the prices that we looked at over here, keep in mind they always talk about plus 10% for factory AC. So these numbers would kind of coincide with the fact that it is a non-AC car. If it did have air conditioning, there'd be a bracket here, and that compressor, that York-style compressor, would be mounted right here, but it is not there. We can see it does have a 3-port Carter fuel pump, which is key. And the engine bay, I think, looks typical for a car that was driven, that wasn't really pampered for the most part. It's kind of just, your normal looking engine bay, and that's what we can kind of see in here. It's not perfect, but certainly if that's something that you wanted to improve upon, you could. We can see here they've, of course, removed the air cleaner. The air cleaner does kind of pop onto this guy right here. That sits on top of the exhaust. We can see it has a newer, fresh battery, it appears. Underneath, there is the gas tank. That's the way it looks in 63. A little bit different in 64 and so on. This photo is just kind of showing the top of the engine. It looks like somebody did get in here with some paint. This is not necessarily a bad thing, but you can kind of see the spray paint kind of in here, probably to clean some things up over the course of time. But we do also see it has a single pot reservoir. We can see here, this ties into the description that the paint is not perfect, but we can see the bright work here, which is stainless, and that's all we have. So my thought is $125,000 is definitely a strong price. If you look over here, that is higher than a concourse restoration. Now, for comparison, if we take a look at Bring a Trailer on May 3rd of this year, so I just went on Bring a Trailer, I typed in 1963 Lincoln Continental, and boom, this came up, right? So this car here, which I believe I did do a review on, and I didn't check. I wonder if it is by any chance. Let's take a look at this, because when I was looking at the interior, I was like, wait a minute. So this is ends in 7320, and unfortunately, they don't always put on here the VIN. So that's a frustrating thing, and that's one thing I love about Bring a Trailer is they get that photo of the door plate, right, or the VIN plate, if you will. And here you don't always have it, so we don't have that. So when I first looked at this, I was like, well, wait a minute. Was this that same car? Because the interior looked very, very similar. I don't know. Maybe it is, because look, it doesn't have the wood here. Engine bay looks similar. They would have painted here. I don't know. What do you guys think? It looks like, because this isn't painted here, but it was painted over there. They may have cleaned it up. No. This is an AC car. Okay. So, sorry. Got a little off track there. But what I will tell you is this car sold for $46,750. Okay. And looking at it, it is very similar. It is an AC car, obviously. But that, shows that it's even worth a little bit more if it's an AC car, right? You could see this car is not perfect, but certainly, this is a car that you can kind of get in and drive, and then down the road you can restore it if you want to do that. But again, let's call it $50,000 compared to here $125,000. To me, it's a very, very strong price. The other key thing is the person does put in here that he builds Lincolns, and that if somebody wanted to kind of go and do a resto mod or do a build, I think that's what he's kind of talking about. He says, I restore Lincolns, and if you want to purchase this vehicle and have the upgrades done by a pro, we can discuss those options. It would take me 4 weeks to replace the top skin, seat piping repairs, paint job. So to me, I think you can look at the Bring a Trailer and kind of see where my mind is at if I was looking to buy a car. Yes, it's 63. Yes, it's desirable. It's a desirable color. It's kind of a untouched for the most part, more of an original kind of survivor type car for the most part. So I think it's going to appeal to some people, but I do think that the asking price is really too strong. However, this is a type of situation where you might contact the individual, get to talking. Hey, I could buy it for this. I could have it built for this. I don't know who the individual is. So again, no connection. If there's ever a connection that I have, which would be very rare, I would disclose that certainly in any of my videos. But with that being said, let me know what you think. Do you think 125 is kind of just like, a pie in the sky type ask, or do you think it's right in line with where things should be? Again, Haggerty, 25,000 to 110,000. I do not believe it falls in number 1 or number 2, so that kind of gives you a little bit of insight to where I'm at. Take care, everyone. Stay on the rise. ODB, we out of here.